We're Malin and Johan, a Swedish couple that have been sailing full-time since 2016. After 3.5 years of sailing, we welcomed our daughter Vera on board. In 2022, we moved into Sunhill Farm and started building our next boat from scratch. We're a bit over a year into the build now, and we are doing the last jobs on the hull before it's time to turn it over. It's been 4 very tough weeks of sanding and fairing the topsides of the hull, but it's finally coming to an end.
Åh, vad kallt det är då.
Hejdå!
Hej.
So it's Monday and I'm heading out in the barn today. I'm gonna help Johan. I will be responsible for cleaning the floor. The last couple of weeks have collected so much dust from all the sanding. So we have like a layer this thick now on the floor. So I'm gonna tackle that today. It feels so good to clean up in here. We have these new really cool fan-assisted safety masks from Sundström Safety, which will keep us safe from all the dust in the barn.
So I've just had some lunch and now it's time to start longboarding again. I'm more or less finished with the random orbital sander just to break the surface on the epoxy on all these patches. So now it will be a really long day with the longboard and probably a long day tomorrow as well before I'm finished with this side of the hull. And we've been thinking about that, if we should apply the base coat now or if we should wait and instead continue with the bottom part of the hull. And I'm starting to think that's probably the best idea since it's pretty dusty and dirty in here right now. So we might as well continue with the bottom and get that sanded as well and then do a big clean up in here after that before we start applying the base coat. But we'll see. There's lots of sanding to do today and tomorrow, and then maybe we can start with the fairing on the bottom section the day after that. Malin will help me out tomorrow to start sanding the bottom section just to make it ready for the fairing. I have to say how nice it is to have this fan unit instead of the mask when you're longboarding. It makes a huge difference to not having to breathe through the filter and just get the air delivered into the mask with the fan. big difference when you're working hard.
Johan applies a guide coat on the surface and then starts sanding to reveal any low spots.
So I'm almost halfway down the hull now. So I think the plan for tonight is to finish half of the hull and do the rest tomorrow, hopefully. There are still some hours left of work to finish half of the hull. You can see there are some spots that I need to get rid of. So maybe another 2 hours or so.
Another late work night in the barn. Before I could start sanding the bottom, all the dust had to be removed first. It was a long time since I was up here, and I had almost forgotten about the shiny surface on the fiberglass.
Almost there. 2 meters left or so, and a few spots that I need to go back on down the hull. For some reason, this second portion of the hull was much harder than the first section. Maybe it's because I'm pretty worn out by now, but or maybe it's that I used a bit less filler in the epoxy up here in the bow. I'm not so sure. But maybe it's also because the hull gets taller up here in the front. So I think even if I have reached the halfway point down the hull, there's still more square meters up here in the bow area since the hull is taller. So maybe I overestimated my abilities when I said I can do the rest of the hull in one day here. It's also that the shape of the hull up here in the bow area is a bit more complicated. The radius here is tighter, so that means it's a bit harder to get that to be, how should I say, like a fair curve on that. It's much easier in the stern when you have a much larger radius to get a fair line on that, or a curve. So I've been struggling a little bit with that around this area, but now it's okay. So it's Wednesday morning. Malin is already sanding on the bottom of the hull. I didn't quite finish everything yesterday. It was a lot of work, so I still have the bow cone left and a few spots that I need to sand a bit more on or around. So I hope to finish that today before lunch. So the top sides are now finished for now. I've checked them with the low angle light and also with the laser to see if I could find any irregularities in the shape of the hull, and I couldn't. It looks really, really nice. I think later on when we put on the base coat there will probably be some small stuff, but nothing big, so that we can fix later on when it's time for the top coat. So this is definitely enough for now. So now it's time to start with the bottom section of the hull to get some fairing up there. But before we do that, I have decided that we're going to put some plastic on the top side here just to protect it so we don't spill any fairing down on these newly sanded top sides. So we'll just put the laser line along the water line and put the plastic with the tape along that line. Yeah, for those of you who have followed this build from the beginning, you might remember that we have used the water line as a reference plane. And that's nice now because I can just point the laser at the water line and it should be correct for the whole length of the boat. And that will be the same once the hull is turned over and inside here again. We will use the water line as a reference plane for everything we do inside the hull. Looks pretty accurate from the markings that I have done. I took some measurements from the 3D drawing on the outside of the hull, the length from the shear line at each station up to find the water line on the outside. And it seems to, I mean, that was a pretty crude way of finding it on the outside. But the markings that I have done seems to be correspond quite well to the laser line now.
Johan mixes the fairing compound and starts fairing the bottom of the hull. This is a smaller surface than the top sides, so maybe this will go a bit faster.
So this is as far as I got yesterday. It's a bit more complicated getting the fairing onto the hull up here, since you're crawling around on the same surface that you're trying to get the fairing onto. So that's why I decided to divide the hull in 2 sections like this. So I think the plan for today will be to get the fairing onto the port side up here, also up to the keel pocket over there. I didn't use that long flexible spatula for this because it was a bit complicated using it when you're at the same time crawling, because you couldn't use your hands together with that. So I decided to use a smaller spatula, which also made it a bit easier to get more fairing onto the hull quicker. Hopefully that will give me more fairing to sand into, and at the end speed the whole process up a little bit. More sanding, but also less rounds of fairing, or that's the theory I have right now. It feels really nice to be past the topsides now that we have finished with that. It's been 4 weeks of really hard work with that. So even if there will be more sanding and fairing up here, at least there will be something different. You can still feel that this is a bit tacky, so I can't sand on this today. So more fairing on this side, and then I'm thinking I will wait until Monday before I continue with the rest of the hull up here. I really need some rest now. And it's Friday today, so that means that this is it for this week's episode. So thanks a lot for watching, and a really big thank you to all of you who support our videos in different ways. It really means a lot to us. And if you're interested in supporting our videos or get in direct contact with us, you can do that by heading over to our Patreon page and become a member over there. And yeah, we hope to see you next Friday, and have a really nice weekend now, and take care. Bye bye.